It is 1:48 p.m. My essay is due tomorrow, and I'm not done, which is not a bad thing. But was just writing like crazy yesterday, and I realized that it might not make sense. So let's look through it today, right now. When I read, it's not, I'm not processing. I think I have a problem with horniness, but let's focus on something else. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read it out loud. What I have. It's not like trigger warning. It's bad. I was just making sure I had words on the page. Let's see how it sounds, okay? Let's read it out loud. Okay. My thesis statement is drag influencers in Singapore empowering audiences in the digital realm. Introduction. In the convoluted digital world of contentious gender politics, social media influencers emerge as opinion leaders, having accumulating a relatively large following on blogs and social media through the textual and visual narration of their personal lives and lifestyles, engage with their following in digital and physical spaces, and monetize their following. Ask anyone if they know anything about drag, and explanations about exaggerated lip syncing competitions, bitchy dressing room drama, and memorable moments from RuPaul's Drag Race are likely answers you will receive. Arguably the most influential global platform for drag artistry with over 17 seasons, over a dozen spin-offs and international editions, as well as being translated into multiple languages, RuPaul's Drag Race has transformed a once underground art form into a mainstream cultural phenomenon, inspiring queer communities and digital creators worldwide, including Southeast Asia. That's a long ass sentence. I think you can tell immediately, like some parts, it's not like Tui, you know. Why do I keep saying it in languages that I don't speak? It's like more like get to the point, which is that it was once underground and it's now bigger. So I don't think we need all that about RuPaul's Drag Race, but I'll strike through, and then if I want it to like cushion the point. Ultimately, this essay will explore how digital representations of drag queen influencers in Singapore achieves a pure simulacra ideal, which subsequently leads to the annihilation of notions of the gender binary, positioning gender as an empowering tool, and then in brackets, the malleability and expansiveness. That's the point that you are. It's raining? That's the point. Next, define terms and scope. Drag queen influencers believed to have originated from 16th century Shakespearean scripts referencing male players playing the role of women. The term drag stood for dressed resembling a girl. Here we encounter the first notion of representation or simulacra. They're not the same, so I don't know why you did that. Of representation or simulacra. Let's highlight that. We have to get clear about what the scope of a simulacra is even. On the Elizabethan stage, cross-dressing was common practice when women were not allowed to act, as women were not allowed to act. Cross-dressing theory in this sense was used as an analysis into the tensions between authenticity and theatricality. Firstly, I want to make the distinction in this essay. Though cross-dressing has been contested as the origins of the artistic habitus and practice of the performance of drag, this essay defines drag as a form of queer artistic expression through the heightened transformation of physical bodies for entertainment purposes. You have to make it more to you, what interests you. Like, I can tell some parts of it you're just rambling and droning. It's because it doesn't interest you. Existing schools of thought attribute drag to performances of gender identity through the lens of the purpose of challenging, questioning, disrupting, and disputing the gender binary system and creating queer identity spaces and communities. However, I make the argument in this essay that drag has transcended the performative and onto epistemological orders to take on a queer phenomenology of its own accord. This essay will be using drag queen influencers in the context of Singapore's Benda, Miss Joachim, and Becca Tabas to study their effects in the digital sphere, and then we should talk more about them. I don't know if here are introduction or theories used. Baudrillard's concept of simulacra. In Simulacra and Simulation, Baudrillard describes a world. I think I'll like change as I go along or highlight what it's fucked up. where representations no longer reflect reality but instead replace it, creating a sense of hyper-reality, where the line, can I comment? Comment. This is an effect. Explain theory first in relation to digital drag, then effects. Okay. Where the line between real and simulation collapses. He outlines four stages of simulation. First, a faithful copy of reality. Second, a perversion of reality. And third, a pretense that there is a reality behind the sign. And fourth, pure simulation, which has no connection to reality at all. This concept resonates vividly in the digital performances of Singapore and of drag off. We don't need that. Their online personas meticulously curated, exaggerated, and visually saturated to transcend the limits of their offline selves, creating hyperreal drag identities that feel more real or iconic than their physical existence. Amanda's hyper-feminine, high-glam aesthetic and Becca's larger-than-life political wit don't just mirror queer culture, they generate and shape audience expectations of it, becoming simulacra in themselves. In doing so, their content doesn't merely depict drag, it becomes the dominant reality of drag in the Singaporean digital imagination. We'll be talking about Fowler's interpassive and interactive communication later. When Baudrillard wrote, the media referred to typical information. Okay, this was in when I was first starting the essay and I was bullshitting. Media referred to typical information sharing reading mediums. New electronic mass media embodied the shift away from print to an audiovisual basis. Accessibility that broke down the boundaries. Instant translations and pictorial representations. Anyone, anywhere in the world can access the same digital content. The concept of simulacra offers a provocative lens with which we can understand the construction of gender performity in digital. What is the point you're trying to make? I think you were trying to say that, okay, you're trying to say that it was reading medium and then pictorial representation. And when it's a pictorial representation, you don't have literacy, which means I literally don't understand the point you're trying to make. So take it out. Take it out. This is good. It's like a tutorial, but like of my own brain. In conservative heteronormative Singapore, we should talk more about that, where traditional values struggle with hypermodern technologies and notions of that accent jumped out. I sound South African. Okay. Um, Traditional values struggle with hypermodern technologies and notions of progressiveness. And then I put a full stop. Tradition nowhere. In conservative heteronormative Singapore, traditional values struggle with hypermodern technologies and notions of progressiveness. What is the point? Drag performance is represented as entertainment, but emerges as a radical act of self-making. See now, because you're going on another tangent. In relation to Baudrillard's simulacra, Deleuze, where did Deleuze come from? Posits that the produced identities of influencers in the digital sphere, when repeated, plays upon the difference of the subject. You're insane. There are four stages of the phenomenon. The phenomenon has its origins in the combination of Marxism and structuralism in the context of a commodity. The object, using the concept of the difference of the other, is not looked at in its inherent value of art. The difference in perception of the commodity is therefore dictated by the blank conditions replicable to hyperreality, object whenever subject slash illusion or reality. Okay, so that was the point you're trying to make. It's bad, but I see the point. Let's add a comment. So the point is, how do I add a comment? Add comment. Add comment. How? And comment. Okay. Um, I'm trying to say that drag is symbol. Okay. So community building. Ultimately, symbol that is knowable, therefore illusion. Okay, make this point clear, because that's setting your what the point is to set it up for um the rest of the essay. Sorry, I'm just do you feel like I'm really muscular? Like they're obviously really skinny, but like I feel like that there's like a shape to it that's weird. Um, this chapter argues precisely that drag in post-colonial, post-binary, and post-humanist discourses, my teacher wrote this part, so don't come for me, has undergone a masochistic politics of simulacra sublimation. Yeah, that's good. He has like such a, again, Tui way of like, I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong, but it's in my head. It's like you have all these ideas and you're putting the theories together to form something, and the sentence is to the point, expresses that. How? If the labor of digital drag influences drag in Singapore refuses the taxonomies of genetics and kinetics. So kinetics, we are going to show that everything in intro explains theories and sets the stage for what you're gonna talk about. Okay, this is good. Instead, along with the advent of transtopia and transaesthetics, we did not use that, but we should. The positionality of drag, both offline and online, has over time adopted a necropolitical force that resists cisgenderism and binary sexuality as evolutionary origins. Okay, embodiment theory and prototechnicity. This is a really fucking long introduction. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know if that's okay. Cause should I be talking about it in my first paragraph? Embodiment theory posits that identity is not merely represented through additive art. It's fine. I can do it out here. My bad. I shouldn't have filmed myself doing that, but it's okay. To the body, but constituted by embodied experience itself. This means that identities and lived experience that form notions of self and community, Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. Try to throw in shit that he talks about, cause like I remember in class he was like, give back what I gave to you, which is kind of touching. Are expressed through the bodily presence and physical interaction of the world. Again, it's like I see the point you're trying to make, but there's not like a succinct and like way of phrasing it. I mean, there is, but you're not. Ooh. Embodiment theory is central to drag performance. Physical enactment of gender, persona, identity, and subversion in politics and real-world dynamics makes drag an art form that goes beyond its visual aesthetics. When this is transposed into the digital realm in social media communities like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, we enter a state of proto-technicity. I don't think you're using that right. This concept refers to the reciprocal relationship in human subjectivity and technological interfaces. Through drag performance considered in its own right humans merge with technology? No, it's not true. Drag influencers' presence becomes an extension of their body. See? That makes more sense. Digital drag performers like Vanda. You don't have to say Singapore's been demonstrating every time, just like Vanda and Becca. Do not abandon embodiment when they shift online. Rather, the embodiment is extended and reconfigured by the technological apparatus. The screen, camera, and platform algorithms become part of the performative interface, mediating the body and amplifying its expressive capability. That makes sense, but again, I feel like there's something you want a more specific example, you know? This suggests that digital drag remains an embodied performance, though its embodiment is hybrid, both flesh and code, gesture and algorithm. As such, drag in digital context can be read not only as a performance of identity, but also as a technocultural interface where the human and machine co-produce meaning, visibility, and effect. So, human machine interface. Tracing the artistic practice, that's crazy that you're not in your body yet. In the body paragraph. Tracing the artistic performance of practice of drag performances consists of exaggerated makeup that surpasses notions of passing as feminine lip syncing performances, and now digital drag that consists of established social media presence, online business ventures, as well as the translation of drag performance into a cyberspace like Drag Race Simulator. According to Deleuze, supremacy of identity defines this world of representation. There's a reciprocal relationship between humans and digital cultures, and that it endows the dispositive of technological actants with an ensoulment separate from human qualities, positioning the platformization of drag culture as a performative entity in its own right. Why is it wrong? It felt wrong, right? Removes autonomy from its human players. No, 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 no. Drag influencers like Benda generate a version of the self that is enabled only from the existence of the consumer or participant, participant, i.e., people who follow her Instagram page and like or share content. That you're literally going against what, like, the conclusion we reach from this analysis to take us forward in this essay that argues that drag performance in the digital sphere is its own untethered form of expression and works to empower artists and consumers. That sentence makes no fucking sense. The conclusion we reach from this analysis to take us forward in this essay argues that drag performance in the digital sphere is its own untethered form of expression that works to empower artists and consumers. Okay, fine, fine. By engaging in the third stage of simulacra, where the symbol of drag performance, this is done. That is not great, but I'll do. Engaging by becoming where the symbol of drag performance becomes a faithful copy in its own right. We can say like what is drag for influencers? Okay, these are questions to answer in the first. Hyper reality and queer identity building. What else? Is this too long? It's for myself. Shut up, bitch. What is. Wait, what? What else? I think my face looks kind of fat. Is it the way I do my hair? What else are you gonna get out of being in a room? So tired. If someone essentially living this fantasy, you can engage in sharing space. What is subversive about queerness and proximity? Bucket of us leads into the conversation around digital drag in interview. So drag stands in heteronormative, conservative Singapore budgets of representation hold utmost significance to communities that feel like they belong to non-mainstream spaces. Drag is structured around the grounds of a society whose basic fabric is founded upon oppression. That oppression is a power that designates disadvantages and injustice because of everyday practices systematically reproduce a major economic, political, and cultural advent of social media has introduced a new form of reality in the lives of the average netizen. The very idea of social media that extends beyond normative, cultural, and physical. Okay, you need something in between. Like I get the point you're trying to make. point to something, young queer people find communities online to identify with from a young age due to feeling like they belong to non-mainstream spaces. To belong and construct an effective discursive space for individuals who feel like they disrupt normative ideals. We should be talking more about normative ideals as a way to frame it. You know what I mean? Like about these ideals to frame your point. Feeling marginalized. Digital realms exist as final spaces where opportunities for community building and knowledge spreading at an extent that mimics the interpersonal. The term referring to the social capital gained by LGBTQ youth, viewed as a resource for individuals to cope with the challenges of forming sexual identity. These consumers use digital social platforms as forms to make new social connections and strengthen and maintain existing social ties that increase their social capital. Like, okay, this is a badly written sentence. I shouldn't have gotten this tasty. It's bad. My stomach hurts. Oh, Bordeaux closet set. The final stage. How much longer do we have? A lot. This is a really fucking long paragraph. Okay, let me do it quietly because my mouth hurts from talking. Like occasionally, if there's something that's just so like not it, I'll tell you. Yeah. Because why are you writing about no? There's this weird girl online. I let me tell you about her. 23 minutes. Okay. Remember how I told you I attract weird people? I need to do a ritual to stop that. My face looks fat as fuck right now. I need to do a ritual to stop it because we met at an art gallery thing. She wanted to. Okay, so she followed me on Instagram, and then she said, she asked to hang out, and I was like, I should really be less discriminatory. So I did. But she's weird. I keep looking at her. You know what? Let's not be judgmental. If she's weird, then don't hang out. But she replies to every single one of my Instagram stories. She's always saying like we should date. Okay. The point here is spectacle, not hyperreality. So it helps to frame. It will help to frame the other things that we're going to talk about. Let me just back up for a second. So, hyperreality leads into spectacle. That's the So first about ideals in heteronormative Singapore. See, we're talking about two different things now. Okay, let's let's start with drag as fantasy and spectacle, and then we will talk about it in Singaporean ideals and context. Yep. So maybe the ideals not framing the point. The spectacle is framing the point. So this whole paragraph about Avanda's Instagram post paralleled with Mariah Carey's like diva personality. So what I was trying to do is that he wanted to analyze something like a piece of art. I could analyze pictures from Instagram and videos and stuff. Just have to make sure that it makes fucking sense. Cause this, no, I don't think so. Let's leave it. This whole big ass chunk right now. Let's leave it first. I don't think this is a strong point because the aesthetics of drag mediated through a pose for audience perception, digital filters, and camera work create a hyper-reality that reflects societal expectations of beauty standards online. In this case, the glamour and high-profile collaboration lends her the social capital of achievement, bumbleclot. Opposing this is Becca's Instagram presence, and then I contrast it. Um, and then I talk about Munoz's disidentificatory performance. So let's see, we are going to talk about embodiment too. Disembodiment, right? Because, okay, I don't want to analyze pics yet. We're analyzing the landscape. So we're saying drugs is spectacle and a fantasy, and it's disembodied. How we're going to phrase that, I have no idea. But it's definitely not this way. Okay, it's 2 o'clock. I think we're okay for time. But obviously, rush, you know. Let's set a timer. A timer. Um, let's try to do this within 30 minutes. Let's ignore and then wrap up by arguing that the different strategies of survival, they both transcend the gender binary but in radically different simulacrum forms. In this sense, drag influences do not dismantle the binary. They float above it, crafting digital versions of gender that are simultaneously empowering and estranged from. Okay, this is the point. This is the point. Make it clearer. Fantasy. Okay, so it could be like like a flow, like a time. So we're saying that first you're transcending any notion of binary, and then it's a utopia. Because that's not the point. The point. What is the point? Because for my second point, that's what I'm writing about. It destroys shame. So if drag is a fantasy and spectacle first, and it that's not the point. There is no point. It's a non-point. You're just saying things. So let's okay. So if we establish that drag is a spectacle, a fantasy, and is disembodied, and then the second point is that it destroys notions of gender binary and shame. What? What is the first point? The first point is supposed to be. Okay, that's the problem. You didn't have a first point. I just wrote the first effect of simulacra is hyperreality. That's not your first point, okay? Urgh. It's not the first point. Let's restructure that. How? Okay, hyperreality in queer identity building. Identity building. Okay, so the themes that you're gonna bring up is what the fuck? Queer identity building, community. So okay, we have all these ideas. We have fantasy, spectacle, construction, and identity building. So we have okay, the point is identity construction to the as fantasy. So we establish that drag utopia concept using identity construction frameworks to say that gender ideals, sexuality ideals are not real. And the effect of this is community building. I I had a crazy talk to myself on the MRT, and then I think, okay, okay, the first point is community. Community. Okay, when you fuck up gender, you're saying that gender binary doesn't exist, and your consumer, it means that you can be anything you want. This is what I wrote. Gender binary doesn't exist, so this means I can be anything I want. Boom. But then we contrast it to what it's like in Singapore really as a queer person. Can that happen? Well, no. Okay, so that's my point. What? That's a bad thing. You're trying to say it's empowering. Okay, one thing you're bringing up identity construction for drag as fantasy. We'll establish that drag utopia as a concept using identity construction frameworks to say that gender ideals and sexuality ideals are not real. That's your first part. No, it's not. That's still the same thing. You're saying that it's not real. So what? So what? What's the point? How is it empowering? Community building. There's a thesis that I saw online. Let me find it. Where are you? From subordinate queers to fabulous drag queens as an empowering strategy for gay men. Okay, okay, so that abject shame part should come first, right? Right or wrong? I'm so over myself. No, we need this. We need this. We need to work through it. Okay, so this thesis states that there is a power structure that exists, straight hegemony, the way I said it was funny. And the supposition of subordinate position, is in the context of patriarchy and compulsory heterosexuality is being defeated. That is a point. It's a point. But then again, it's like my first point is building on that already. Let's combine it. Okay, that means we have to come out with a new second point. Okay. Um, if you're watching it like 35 minutes into it, can you tell me my face is like I think I have a fine face. It's fine. It's fine. It's just sometimes I'm like, why do I do my hair like that? It's fine. I okay. Um, we combine the ideas to say that the first point is that it's empowering in rebelling against notions of heteronormative hegemony. Yes. So point one is, what did I just say? Empowering artists in the face of heteronormative hegemony. Okay, let's see if I'm pronouncing hegemony right. No, it's hegemony. Okay, it's hegemony. I swear it's not. I swear it's not. I've heard it in Welcome to Nightville. Do you ever like pronounce something in a certain way and you look it up and you're like, that's hegemony? Hegemony, American pronunciation. Hegemony, British pronunciation. Okay, so the British are wrong. Okay, point one, empowering drag artists in the face of heteronormative hegemony. Let's not say. Number two, second point, the destruction of gender and sexuality, shame and empowering. What? What? Okay, let's say the first one is because we have to consider the effects on artists and audiences. So let's say we are empowering drag artists right now. Number two, empowering audiences. Empowering audiences in community building. So you're switching your points around. I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense though, because the first one's a stronger point. You should always start with your stronger point. Shout out Vina Kaur. I think I need to take essay writing lessons because the last time I wrote an essay was in secondary school, and I need to like brush it up. Okay, so second point, empowering audiences in community building. We can definitely make that point stronger in some way. I don't know how, but in some way. Okay. Um, we have the point, and I realized that everything I wrote here should be at the top, combined at the top, so that you really only have one. That's okay. It's okay. Against. This is my point that says that it's exploitative. The toils of influential labor, performativity. Drag influencers and their. I thought I'd say. I said I did. I would do it quietly. Let me just quietly do it. Okay, here's the point. Here's the problem. This is not doing shit. I thought the sugar, maybe the sugar is helping, but it's just dripping water everywhere. The problem is that if you use quotes or ChatGPT and you insert it later on, the way you start the paragraph is not good. because the point that you quote later is more to the point. So it's like you start by saying performativity and they engage in a loop of visibility. But then later on, the quote that you use is not good. No, it like I'm talking about Augusta Boel and interpassivity now, which doesn't even like the concept of interpassivity is that it's opposite of interactivity, right? So if you like something on an Instagram post that's interacting, but the opposite of that is being a passive interactor. So when you watch like the Truman Show and the recording of laughter in a studio plays, someone is laughing for you. You don't have to do the labor of laughing. So let's say if you watch drag and it's politically subversive, it questions notions of like stuff in Singapore that is worth criticizing, okay? And you watch it as an audience online, you are interpassively interacting with this critique in saying that what are you saying? You're saying that you're you don't have to do the labor of being an activist or an artivist, an artivist, if you will. You don't have to do the labor, but by liking it, you are. I don't think that's a good point, because it's like mutual. Let's say mutual labor is what makes drag in a digital space. So what? So you can say like the point that I think I was trying to make is that because of the fact that they are not doing any of the labor but just liking a video of someone criticizing something that something about governance, you are a completely passive participant in your own digital footprint. Like drag is supposed to be subversive and it's supposed to build community and bring people together, but when you watch it online, like sure it's you're part of a community and sure you're interacting with it. But by nature, the fact that it's a simulacra means that kind of inter this kind of passive engagement with a simulation defeats the purpose of drag. It's not it's not subversive anymore. It's a spectacle. Spectacle in a bad sense. Okay, let's write that down. The point is that what did I just say? Um, when do you want to see my tattoo that I did myself? And then I have one there, and then there. I got love, but it started to hurt when I did it. So okay, sorry. Point. Oh my God, what did I just say? Okay. Um, passively interacting with subversive drag ruins with the spectacle of drag, as you've established, is regressive because firstly, it's not subversive anymore, it's commercial. And also passively. Okay, again, that's two different points. Because my second point is supposed to be the commodification of it. Yeah. Okay. Let's think about this for a second. How is labor You're saying that labor is exploitative, and exploitative labor for artists. So you'll say like really pressure to conform via surgery or um, let's say age as a disempowering move, or like even psychologically and financially draining your resources because it's not a day job, it's not job security. So the point we're trying to make is that it's exploitative to artists because you're using your influencer labor. Let's forget about interpassivity for a while. Let's just forget about it. Because I feel like this could be the second point. Authenticity commodification. So we can bring the fact that labor means that everything is commodified. And when everything is commodified, it's less authentic, which means that audiences are passive enjoyers in their own like bastardization of an art form that was meant to help the queer community. You know what? We got it, babe. We got it. So I don't know why I just did a thumbs up. That's crazy. I miss my grandma. She used to do like cute thumbs up in pictures, and I'll always be like, "What are you doing?" Should I call her? Okay, we have the essay. We have the essay. What we need to do now is write it properly. Let's go back to our second point of empowering this. No, actually, let's go back to the first point because we should start from the first. Um, in the introduction, you want to set the scene for things that you're already gonna write about. Yes, yes. So let's do that. Let's set the scene. Yeah. Okay. See ya. I'm gonna go pee.